Doc Wright. Doc, if you're there, man, go ahead and turn on your camera. There we are.
What is going on, Travis?
That's good, man. How you doing, my man?
Brother, considering all things, man, living a dream, getting it done over here in the headquarters, we just posted a video for all my other small, mid-sized business owners. I sat my company execs down. We all had an hour and a half, 2 hour long conversation about, hey, we've been a virtual company forever. This is how you get it done. This is how you migrate. And we're giving that away for free and asking everybody to share it with their friends, man. We got to keep people employed. We got to keep revenue on, man, so we can get to the other side of this thing.
I love it, man. I love it. All right, well, look, without further ado, let me go ahead and get you teed up, my friend. So Eric Doc Wright, Doc, because he's a PhD. Not too many young enlisted men can say they went on after they served to become a quote-unquote doc. Highly decorated Navy veteran, founder of Vets to PM. The PM stands for Program Manager, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's right. Veterans of Project Manager. That's my for-profit. And then I've also got a nonprofit.
Exactly. Nonprofit. So also co-founder of a nonprofit, Veteran Project Manager Mentor Alliance. He's also a contributing author to the #1 best-selling Game Changers, as well as a keynote speaker for People Up, the 6 principles of navigating organizational cultural change successfully without sinking the ship. So that's what we're going to have the pleasure to do here. So for those people listening in, I mean, guys, go out. This is some really great stuff. I know that a lot of you guys are Navy leaders. You maybe don't recognize some of these speakers that are coming in, but man, these guys have some awesome pearls to listen in on. So go out, spread the word, get some more people logged in here. And man, so what I'm gonna do, Doc, is I'm gonna turn this over to you. I'm gonna turn off my camera and my microphone, and when I hear you kind of coming to an end, I'll pop back in here in the last couple of minutes, and we can maybe field a couple of questions if we have some time.
Right on. Sounds good.
Thanks, brother.
Yep. So, hey, everybody, thanks for letting me be with you today for about the next 30 minutes. Like Travis said, what a crazy 28-year road it's been, right? Going from whole tech to PhD in finance. But I'm here now and I'm still serving. I got a for-profit that helps military veterans achieve meaningful, lucrative careers. My transition was really bumpy, really dark, took about 12 years. And I've also got a nonprofit. So for-profit gets you to the civ div door, the civilian workforce gets you employed, and then the nonprofit mentors you for your second follow-on career. Okay, so what am I gonna talk about, right? So I'm gonna share with you the principles of change management. Okay, a lot of times when we say words like that, we think, oh yeah, it's a project. Well, it is if we use a top-down, conventional, rationally planned, management-driven project plan, right? But we forget about the people. And change really is nothing more than a collection of individuals transitioning from here to there, now to then, okay? However, when I say change management, if you're like most people, that's what you look like right now on the other side of this camera, right? We think about all the projects that we've been on that have failed or that we've led that were just absolute morasses to try and get through. We think about all the people we've known in those trenches trying to pull off, heroic change management projects. So why does that happen? Well, because we don't think about the people. And the omission is fatal. 25 years of research literature by some big universities and some big consulting companies prove that 60% of the time, these big organizational change management projects fail, okay? So I like to give back to the profession. I like to help small and mid-sized businesses. I am one. So this is the keynote for this year, 2020, that I share with folks so that we can help you add a focus on the people to your next change management project so that you can enjoy success instead of the feeling that this audience must be cringing from, okay? So principle number 1, and oh, by the way, these principles have been distilled over my last 5 years of my life's work, helping what? Thousands of military members go from transition successfully between 2 of the most disparate organizational cultures I could think of, United States military and corporate America, right? We're both looking for highly effective, competent, capable leaders and doers, but the military talks about leadership and the general civilian workforce, the civiv, talks about management. They're talking about the same thing, but they're different dialects, so we don't understand what the other one is saying. All right, so principle number one to adding a people consideration to your next change management project is people transition. The organization doesn't change. The organizational change is nothing more than the collective result of all of the individuals transitioning from here and now to there and then, whatever there and then is. Okay? So, and in fact, we even talk about change management, the definition, we call it the intersection of project management and strategy alignment. It doesn't mention people. Okay? So some of the stuff I'm going to share with you today is kind of the psychology that makes us tick. It's left over from when we were all binding together as tribes and fighting off saber-toothed tigers and stuff like that, right? So we're social critters and we're wired that way, okay? So when we ignore the fact that people have psychology at play here, for example, I love achievement, but I hate loss. And if I'm like most people, if you're like this, guess what? You feel the same way. We'd rather hang on to what we got because we know it versus go for something new. Think about hanging from a trapeze bar, right? I'm not letting go of the bar I got until I see another bar in sight that I can grab onto, right? It's just kind of the way we're wired. So when we hand our people a plan and we tell them to execute aggressively or hostily or whatever my Army buddies would say, what we're really telling them is we're kind of glossing over the fact that, hey, what I do is kind of my identity, right? I know it was when I was in service. In fact, that's one of the things I struggled with when I transitioned out. I had lost my sense of purpose and identity. So if you're telling me I got to change something, what you're saying is, what, I'm not good enough? My current productivity is not good enough. The current way I do the job's not good enough. Like, if you don't tell me why I need to change and you don't make it involve me, I'm not buying in. And so managers walk around and harumph about nobody's buying in. Everybody's resistant to the change. They're not. When people say they're resistant to change, I love that, right? I'm going to give everybody watching right now a $40,000 bump in pay. You like that change? Nobody resists that, right? So, you know, there's an example. So my point is that rationally planned, top-down, management-driven project management models don't work 60% of the time. You need to add the element of focusing on the people. We'll still have a project plan and metrics and all of that stuff, but we need to include the people with their gray matter in the whole process. And I'm going to show you some more psychology as we go through that, right? So principle number two, to add a component of people to your next change management project is, the reality is, look at what's going on right now. God forbid, look at what's going on right now in the stock market. People are irrational. We have learned through conditioning and education and leadership programs and everything else to be cool cucumbers when the shooting starts. We're wired to fight, flight, or flee, right? So we're irrational in our nature. We fear loss. We don't like heights. Rationality is buy stocks when the price is really low and sell them when it's really high. But all these companies, there was a fire sale in all these companies. Dow fell what? One of the most precipitous drops just a couple of weeks ago. Why? Because even though that company is still a fundamentally sound company, it's still worth what it was before COVID hit. Once COVID hit and we started locking this whole place down, for some reason that company's revenue was going to drop. That's short term. When the revenue comes back up, it's still the same company, still the same management, still the same people. Don't sell the stock, right? But when you're watching your retirement plan evaporate, it's hard to say, hey, I'm a rational being. It's like, no, I gotta take off the table what I can, right? I gotta salvage what I can. Okay. So part of this is that the prospect theory, that sense of I'm going to keep what I have in lieu of what I could possibly get, because what I have is what I have. It's a known quantity. It's also the false consensus effect. We assume that other people are like us, They feel the same thing. They feel the same stimuli. They experience it the same way. They're going to react the same way. They must be thinking the same thing we're thinking. That's not true, right? We all come from different places, different upbringings, different training, different objectives, okay? We also have the illusion of control. Hey, man, I'm good at what I do. I know how to run a bead. I know how to hustle a business. I know how to count and generate revenue and turn that into cash, right? So if something bad happens, so we don't calculate the probabilities very accurately, and then we figure, hey, if it happens, man, it's me. I'm gonna take care of it, right? I'm 10 feet tall, bulletproof, and eat glass. That works, and for us military folks, we kind of develop that sense of optimism, right? But it can give us a false illusion of control, especially if we've got skin in the game. Hey, well, I developed the tool that we're going to use to dig our way out. Hey, I developed the process that we're going to use to generate more revenue. I'm bought in because it's my process. All these psychological things, these theories I'm sharing with you, you can use just like you use human motivational behavior now with your small teams to get done what you need to get done to make the command a better place, right? Okay, so here's the takeaway from this slide. You've got to embrace that people are irrational, or you can pretend that they aren't. And then when they resist change and you receive project failure, that's just the price of the game, right? What's the old saying, right? Like, if I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing the same way I've always done it, I'm going to get the same results. If I expect different results, that's insanity, right? All right. So number 3, the third way to add a people component to your next change project to increase the likelihood that it succeeds is you got to inspire your people, right? We're human beings. We need facts to justify our decisions, but we buy on emotion. I want to help lift that log because my team needs me, right? You got to get inspired. What are we going to do when we get that log lifted? How good could it be? How different can life be? How much positivity and how much revenue and how much cash and how much customer satisfaction are we going to realize? How much personal satisfaction and fulfillment are we going to generate? All right. Here's the rub of this one. A lot of leaders, because of illusion control, hey, I created this story. Why wouldn't the employees do what I ask them to do? McKinsey, a big, huge global consulting firm, McKinsey Group, a couple of their principals looked at several thousands of managers across companies, and they did a survey. And what they found is the change stories that leaders sell to the crowd, about 80% of that story content focuses on the company and the change. When they survey the employees with the same survey, what they find is the employees want to know, hey, what about me? How's it going to impact me? Category 1. Hey, how's it going to impact my team? Category 2. Hey, how's it going to impact my customer? Category 3. Hey, how's it going to impact our industry? Our reputation? Category 4. Category 5 is the company and the change. Gang, we're talking about 80% story this. That story has very little traction because when surveyed, each employee puts 20% importance in each of the 5 categories. They don't put 80% on one and distribute the rest among the remaining 4. Okay, so the story that we tell not only describes what needs to change and why it needs to change, it needs to involve the people. When we change, here's what's going to be better. Here's what's going to be different. Or here's the pain we'll avoid. Remember those psychological principles I was talking about? We literally are using the way they're wired to get them to want to help us. And as we've heard several times during this leadership summit, I mean, General Eisenhower said what? The art of leadership is getting other folks to do what you need them to do because they want to do it. That's our gold standard. The only way to do that is to get them involved, is to get them inspired. And then we're going to provide the motivation and direction and the project plan and the scheduled milestones and all of that stuff. I'm not saying we 86 that. I'm saying we just add a people component to it. So before I leave this slide, imagine if all your people were inspired. Imagine if all your people felt like they mattered. Imagine if all your people knew that in this project, the most fundamental thing you were watching is their well-being, and you're going to help them each make their individual transitions, and you believe that organizational change happens as a collective result. You don't have to be a hero anymore. You just created a legion of change agents. You're not the only one in the fight, right? All right, so number 4, how do we add a people component to our next organizational project so that the change gets affected? Because these things cost millions and millions and millions of dollars, gang. And I can tell you right now, as a business owner watching cash on hand, every single day I'm up at 05 watching cash on hand. I literally am planning one day to the next trying to keep this thing on the road, right? So that's how important this is. And so we've got to empower the people. I've got a distributed company. I've got employees all over the US. We meet every week on a Zoom just like this, right? Have a staff meeting, right? All hands. But I empower them. I make them responsible for their lines of business. They give me their success metrics. I don't give them their success metrics. We're all in this together. I show them all our financials every month, right? It's all one voice, one team, one fight. How? Empower your people. Create mechanisms to give them feedback. Create mechanisms to push decision-making down as close to the deck plates or the trench line or the flight line as you can get it, okay? So check this out real quick. Speaking of empowering your people. So let them help you make the story. Let them help you make the schedule. Here's why. Let's say that half of you listening right now, so if you're sitting closer to the left side of your monitor, right, you're in group A. If you're sitting closer to the right side of your monitor, you're in group B, or put yourself in whatever group you'd like. Check it out. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have each one of you give me $1 and I'm going to give you a lottery ticket. And in 4 days, we're going to announce a $1,000 lottery. Okay. Group A gets tickets with numbers already on them. It's just a ticket. It was just a buck. Group B gets tickets, but I ask you to make your own numbers up. If you're like most people, statistically, when they run these studies decades over decades, most people do what? What would you do? In the comments, what would you do? It's my wife's birthday. It's my son's birth date. It's my anniversary date. It's the date I graduated college when I never thought I was going to college, right? Holtec, the finance guy, right? That's a long gap, okay? The day before the lottery, I offer to buy your ticket for $2. You literally doubled your revenue. The amount doesn't matter. What they find statistically is group A, you'll sell your ticket at a larger scale. And if you won't, hey, Eric, man, $2 isn't enough, brother. I got a shot at 1,000. How about 3 or 4 or 5, whatever. When I go to group B and try and buy those tickets back, double your return now. When I try to buy, that's the rational decision, right? I spent $1, I got 2. Sweet, I doubled my money. When I go to group B, less of them will sell me the ticket back. And those that do, $2, $3, $4 isn't going to do it. Man, that's my wife's birthday, brother. You're going to have to come with a 20 spot, right? Right? So when people create their stories, when they create their mechanisms, when they create their processes and tools, they are bought in because that's mine, boss. Okay? Again, you're creating a legion of change agents. So it's not you, the hero, trying to carry the day by making everybody else conform to this project plan. Okay? So just imagine how different your next project would be if everybody was all pulling in the same direction. Instead of trying to push a rope across a stage, we're literally standing on the other side, we're just pulling. Imagine how easy that would be. Still got to do the work, but it's much easier. Okay. Hey, Eric, so what's the 5th principle? How do you help military veterans achieve meaningful, lucrative civilian careers, making great money and doing meaningful work? The 5th principle that we distilled was people like attention. So 2 quick illustrations here. The first one is when I was coaching my son's Little League baseball team, and yes, at one summer, they even talked me into a travel team. Never climbed in that barrel again. Anyhow, when I'm coaching that team, we focused on fundamentals, and one of my assistant coaches was a collegiate coach. So we had competitive chops on the team. We didn't tell them the scores. We didn't tell them our record. We didn't tell them their batting averages. We kept all those stats. We're baseball lovers, right? We keep all that stuff, right? That stuff is great to go look at after the game as the adults are sitting around having a brew. We never told them that stuff. How many of you think those kids knew the score? How many of those kids knew how many games we won that day and how we lost? How many kids do you think on a ride home had already done calculations in their head and knew where we stood in the season? I was blown away every single time they knew. And we never mentioned it. In fact, we told them, don't worry about it. Make that catch at shortstop next time, right? Make that throw in from left, okay? Next time. All right. My second illustration is there was a manufacturing plant way back in like the 20s and the 30s, right? It was a little suburb, the Hawthorne suburb outside of Chicago. And the researchers went in to see if things like pay, lighting, temperature, ambient temperature in the factory would make the workforce more productive. Every time they changed something, productivity ticked up a little bit. They were like, that's odd. Doesn't matter what we change. As long as we change something and we're talking to the people and recording the data and stuff, like productivity goes up. What's up? Hey, let's mess with them. Let's start tweaking the dials back down, right? Let's make it a little darker. Let's make it a little more chilly. Let's make it whatever. What do you think they found? They were blown away, the researchers were. It didn't matter what they did, positive or negative, on the environment. Every time the people were asked and watched and coached and got to give their feedback or whatever, they performed better. Why? People like to be noticed. Why do you think social media is so huge today, right? Okay, people like to be noticed. I am not saying they like to be micromanaged. I didn't say that. They like to know that somebody's there for them and watching them. And you heard Travis say this in his leadership introduction this morning, right? Part of his rebellion was not necessarily that, I mean, he was a rebellious kid, it sounds like, but part of it was not just because he was looking for something to do and he didn't have anything better to do than give somebody a hard time. He didn't feel like the folks that were asking him or telling him what to do cared about him or the output. So when it rubbed him the wrong way, he'd fire off his mouth, right? Human reaction, okay? Instead of saying, hey, Travis, here's what I need you to do. Here's why. Here's how I think we should do it, right? If you've got time, let the employee buy in. Sometimes the suspense is short. We got to make decisions. That's why they call us leaders, right? But when and where you can, realize people like attention. Pay attention, challenge them, give them standards, they'll rise, okay? And then finally, our last principle, reward your people. Now, the psychology in this is many of you, well, if you're like me and you were raised Southern Baptist, what you heard is the man always said, treat other folks like you want to be treated. But here's the rub. I like to go fishing. I live a block away from the Atlantic Ocean in the shadow of Cape Canaveral. I love to go fishing. So I'd rather have a couple hours off on a Thursday afternoon and go see if I can catch some fish than I would any amount of money in my paycheck as a performance bonus. Now, you can give me a performance bonus in cash. Sure. It's a wee bit of motivation, but it's not the motivation I want. So instead of the golden rule, I challenge you to start implementing the platinum rule. Treat your folks like they want to be treated. Know what kind of time off they value. Know what they value when they have some time off. Know, who their wives and their sons and their kids and their husbands are. Know their alma mater of college. Now, if you're in the civilian workforce, you got to be careful asking that stuff because you can get yourself sued, right? But in the military, we called that a leader's book, right? Okay, so know your people. And this reminds me of a cool story. So this isn't originally a Dale Carnegie story, but I'm just going to illustrate, speaking of fishing. So this is Dale Carnegie's story. And Dale Carnegie talked about how he liked strawberries and cream for dessert instead of ice cream. I love breakfast burritos, right? I love breakfast burritos. The fish off the Atlantic, though, right off the beach, they don't so much like breakfast burritos. They'd rather have a little crab or a little shrimpy or a little something else on the hook, right? Match the hatch is the mantra. So if my objective is to go catch fish, I can throw them bits of breakfast burrito all day long because that's what I like. You think I'm going to catch more fish or less fish than if I'm using mole crabs or shrimpies or whatever? Right. So I can use what they want me to use, what they want, and my productivity goes up. My output goes up. My return goes up. Now, this is an investment. Getting to know your people, right? Rewarding your people the way they want to be rewarded. You got to treat the team like a team, but you got to treat the individuals like individuals, okay? So this is an investment, but think of Mr. Einstein's compound interest with money. I'm going to put time and effort in you now, so you're more autonomous, you're more resilient, you're more capable later. Guess what happens to my future bandwidth? I just increased it because now I've got more people in the area around me executing 1 up, 2 up. You know, you heard Travis talking about that. I mean, how many times you get to a command, you're E this, you're O that, and they put you in a job that's 3 levels above your skill set, your capability. And somebody says, you know, like Command Master Chief did today, take you in the office every day. We're going to have a little bit of a mentoring session because I'm not going to let you fail this one, kid. Everybody in the command's watching. But he still had the courage to give that member that challenging work. Okay, so in summary, right? If we want something new, if we want new results from change management projects, we want to succeed more than 30 or 40% of the time, then we have to change what we've been doing. And if what we've been doing is rationally planned, senior leader, top down, management driven, conventional project management, you're not going to get different results. The stats don't show that. You have to go from the bottom up. If the triangle is top down, flip it on its head. Go bottom up. Start with the people on the deck plates. That's what we called it in the Navy, deck plate leadership. Flight line leadership, Air Force, trench leadership in the Army. Start with the people, work up. You still get done what the boss needs to get done. You still make the command a better place, the organization a better place. You still generate revenue. You still take care of customers, but your people know that they matter in your calculus as well, right? So we want to do something new, get different results, enjoy change success. We need to focus on the people involved and their transition success. We need to embrace and leverage the fact that they are human beings, which means they are irrational. We can prop them up or we can tear them down. We need to inspire them with shared stories and desires, not what we want, but what they're going to get. We need to empower them through storytelling, decision-making, and feedback loops. We need to pay attention to them both as individuals and as team members, and we need to reward them like they want to be rewarded. You can find me anytime you want at Doc Wright is my handle. I am at on LinkedIn, Doc Wright, and you can always email me, eric@vets2pm.com. Travis, that is it, brother.
Dude, what? That is awesome, dude. Man, you got this thing locked down. I love your passion and what you do, brother. And man, just thank you so much for your time, man. As always, just pay attention to the Facebook. If there's any questions out there, feel free to ask Doc. He's awesome, available. But I cannot let you leave because I did forget to ask my question. Don't think you're going to get off the hook that easy, brother. So if you could be a superhero, who would it be?
You know, my favorite as a kid growing up was Spider-Man, right? As you can tell, it's more my style than like, you know, Superman. But man, I got to tell you, brother, being able to fly like with no machine, you know, I have dreams about that. I have since I was a little kid. Going to get a pilot's license is on a bucket list. I think I'd have to say Superman, brother, so I could fly.
I love it, man. That's awesome, dude. Well, dude, Doc, thanks so much for your time, brother. I really appreciate it. I know we kind of we got connected through Chris, and this is how that 3 degrees of separation works. You just never know who you're going to come across to meet. Same thing with our next guy here, Brian. Man, so Doc, thanks so much for your time, brother, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks for the invite, dude. I'm on my way to Facebook.
Yep, later.